Thank you all so much for being here at Platform. I'm thrilled to welcome you all to our last session, or event of Women's History Month, where we'll have an inspiring conversation featuring 4 amazing panelists who I will introduce in a few moments. They'll share how they've developed their leadership styles, how they guide their team as owners, managers, and how they still continue to build their confidence as leaders. We hope this conversation will leave you feeling inspired, with new connections, new ideas and strategies on how to be a better leader yourself. We'll leave lots of time for Q&A, a little bit of time for some networking, chatting with everyone and our speakers, so save your questions for the end. Thank you. And I just want to quickly just run through a few things before I introduce everyone. Huge thank you to our sponsors, French Bloom for the wonderful non-alcoholic sparkling wine. We have Conniption Gin making a delicious cocktail back there. Please feel free to go grab one after the panel is over. We also have San Pellegrino sparkling water. So thank you to them for their support, and thank you to Poppies for the amazing breakfast spread, which feel free again to get up during the panel after to get some more food. I also quickly want to flag some JBF resources that I'm pointing to over here. There's some QR codes that you can scan, but we've recently released our 2025 industry report, which kind of gives a snapshot of the last year of the industry, some solutions for 2025 and beyond. I will also, let me introduce our amazing panelists, and then we'll get started on the conversation. Okay, starting with Jamie Erickson, who is the owner of Poppies and an alumni of our Women's Entrepreneurial Leadership Program. She is a 4th-generation New Yorker and mother of 2, and sole owner of Poppies, which is a Brooklyn-based hospitality brand encompassing a catering business, intimate event space, and 2 cafes. Her career began in high school as a hostess, and she further honed her skills at the kitchen in Boulder, Colorado. Before founding Poppies, Jamie led events and catering at City Bakery. She's dedicated to nourishing people, fostering community, and creating a sustainable workplace. Thank you, Jamie, for being with us. Give a round of applause for each speaker. Sitting next to Jamie is Saori Minakawa, who is the Director of People and Culture at Noun Hospitality. Her journey in hospitality has always been about people. She started as a general manager of Atomics, where she spent 3 years fostering a culture of warmth, precision, and excellence. In 2024, she transitioned to her current role as Director of People and Culture, driven by the belief that a restaurant's greatest strength is its people. She has a deep understanding of operations and a background as a meditation teacher. Saori brings a unique perspective to leadership. Through mentorship and culture building, she is committed to shaping a more thoughtful, inclusive future for the industry. Thank you, Saori, for being with us. So funny, you all sat in order the way I wrote your bios, which was not planned. Thank you. Neely Robinson is our next panelist. She's the owner and managing director of Back and Forth Hospitality and another alumni of our Women's Leadership Program. So I definitely recommend chatting with some of the alumni to learn more about our programs. So Neely, as I mentioned, is the founder and managing director of New Jersey's acclaimed hospitality group, which includes Lita, La Otra, Heirloom Kitchen, and the recently opened Judy and Harry's, Abraham and David's Delicatessen. Sorry, Neely, if I butchered that totally.
It should be butchered. It's
okay.
Just too long.
Thank you. She's a self-taught entrepreneur and founded Heirloom Kitchen, the group's first restaurant in 2013 with her mother, Judy. The restaurant now celebrates its 10th anniversary and is one of New Jersey's most beloved restaurants. With her partner, David Viana, they've opened Lita, La Otra in 2023, which has earned Esquire's Best New Restaurants and received a nomination for James Beard Award Best New Restaurant. Neely oversees every aspect of the hospitality group, including its team and culture, marketing and creative, and ensuring no detail is overlooked. Thank you, Neely. And last but not least, Aneesa Waheed, who is the owner and chef of Tara Kitchen and Legacy Network Advisor. Aneesa never dreamed of becoming a chef. Instead, her accidental career in food began on vacation in Morocco when she fell in love with food and her husband. They eventually settled in Schenectady, opening a massively popular Moroccan stall in 2008, leading them to open their first Tara Kitchen in 2012. Followed by 2 more in the capital region, another in Wildwood, New Jersey, a 5th in Tribeca in December 2022, and a 6th in Hyderabad in December 2023. She developed a line of Moroccan sauces that are sold online. Her first cookbook, Easy Moroccan Cookbook, was released in 2022. She's been featured on Beat Bobby Flay, Guy's Grocery Games, Kitchen Crashers, and other nationally aired TV shows, as well as a TEDx talk. So thank you all so much for being with us. Another round of applause. Okay, I'm going to start with a very high-level question, and we'll just go down the line. How would you describe your leadership style in a few words or sentences? Does anyone want to go first, or Aneesa, do you want to kick us off?
I thought about this because we got the questions earlier. My leadership style is really to not be front and center. So I try to cultivate, hire, and keep people on the team who fall in love with what they are doing, who fall in love with the brand, who hopefully fall in love with me, and then really empower them to do what they're supposed to do on a day-to-day basis, because we have 6 locations, lots of moving parts, and you can't do it without a really good team. So my role in the company is really everybody's best assistant.
I would say that for me, it really comes down to just who I am, which is very straightforward. I'm super honest. And that's essentially my style, to kind of let everybody, I'm getting all nervous. I just took some notes down, I'm just going to refer to my notes. Yeah, that I hold everybody to a high standard, and I'm pretty honest about that, and I think that helps everybody be their best selves when they show up to work because of that expectation level. Yeah.
I thought about this too. I think for me, it's really high performance, but also balanced with love. At Atomix, I think really that pursuit of excellence at the highest level is really relentless. We're on the stage with some of the greats in the entire world, and that pressure is so real. And so we do want to be excellent. We do want to go for that perfection, which is unachievable, and I think that's not sustainable unless people feel loved and cared for and valued and respected. And so I think it's so important to have a balance of both.
I was thinking about the answer to this, and a few years ago, somebody who was in place as our COO had the managers take a DISC assessment. I don't know if anybody's ever taken one. But I fell on a completely different spectrum than the rest of the people that work for me. And I was an I for influencer, not the social media type. But it describes a much more macro creative people person, and something that I've really learned about myself, especially in the years since the pandemic, was how much I'm the creative brand director, much more than the micro doer. So the way that I lead is by creating this environment, this brand, this business, but I don't necessarily get into the details of the operations of exactly how to do everything every day. In that creative role, I think I lead with empathy always, which has helped me and foster a team that's been with us for so many years, and collaboration most of all. A lot of the growth has happened due to the collaboration of our whole team, led by me, but not enforced by me alone.
Sorry, you only have one mic. I'm sorry, everyone. Thank you for bearing with us. I guess a follow-on to that, and Jamie, you described the DISC assessment. Were there any other moments that have influenced you all? Moments? Was it a podcast, a leader that was in a previous role, something you did, an assessment that kind of shaped this? And I know it's probably evolving as well, but what were the moments that kind of shaped this leadership style that you now kind of embody?
I think actually for me it was all the negative experiences. So I worked in corporate America for a long time, and I decided to leave corporate America because I really disliked the management style, the leadership style, and I did not like the lack of team building. We were sort of used to pit against each other. It's just a game of chess that I was not interested in. So what I try to do in our business and our brand right now is to really be anti-corporate America as we build a corporation. So for me, it's really, really important to hire people, retain people, maintain people who feel as part of a team and who we want to spend 10, 12-hour days together. And for us, our metrics are really not measured by how talented you are or how great you are at what you can do. It's really, for us as a company, we measure them by how much fun we have together. So it's really, really important that we're having fun all the time, and I think that then translates to things we want to do in the company when we all feel like, oh, we have to do this or that, or whatever it is. So for me, it's not so much about the great things that I saw in someone else. It's all sort of the wrong things that I saw and felt that helped me kind of develop what I wanted to do in my workspace.
I think I'm definitely a total work in progress as a leader. I had maybe like 12 employees in 2022, and I have almost 70 now, so it's a very quick growth spurt, and so I never seeked out to be in this style role or this kind of role. So I seek advice from my partner, who's probably one of the wisest people I know, one of the best leaders I know, David Ganna. He's our chef as well. And then I listen to like a lot of podcasts. So Adam Grant, Brene Brown, Jillian Turecki, Esther Perel, everything about relationships and how to kind of deal with a lot of different kind of situations, especially in the workplace.
Which is that hiring people and looking for people who have a stronger percentage of an innate work ethic and something within them that you cannot teach is more important than the skills you can teach, which is the 49%. So I've always looked for people I can collaborate based on that. Another one was, you don't grow if you don't let go. And I've let go from a very early year of starting Poppies in order to allow for the growth. And luckily I'm not type A, so it allows me to do so. A massive shift for the business was the pandemic for me. It was 7 years into my business where I was primarily a catering business, so it crashed and burned to nothing. I lived and breathed listening to every How I Built This podcast and found those totally inspiring and long car rides as I slung grocery bags out to the Hamptons and tried to survive. And then, doing things like joining the James Beard, the WELL program has been hugely inspiring to me, meeting so many other women within the industry, hearing their stories. I think after 10 years, now I'm 12 plus years into running my own business, I take all of these little snippets, but the confidence definitely gains after a period of time, and certainly rebuilding from the ground up during the pandemic allowed a lot of these things to really speak to me.
Okay. I'm going to stick with sort of talking about your teams. With all of you having multiple concepts or a growing team, knowing that you can't be physically present probably every day, or even in your business at every location, what systems or processes do you put in place so that you continue to maintain strong relationships with your team members, knowing that again you're not there every day, you couldn't be. How do you sort of foster those relationships, maintain them across businesses with larger teams?
I'm omnipresent. Huge pictures of me everywhere. Not true. Kim Jong version of me. But it's very, very challenging. That's probably one of the most difficult parts for me, because we have these locations that are sort of far and wide. The furthest being India, so very, very challenging. But I think we have a really amazing and constantly evolving systems and processes that we roll out at each location. So we start with a really good, solid base of standard operating procedures, metrics on how and what we need from each location. I spend a lot of time at each location when they're first starting out, building that team and growing that team and having that relationship with them physically present there for months at a time. Last year I was in India. I think I flew to India a total of 14 different times. So I was literally on a plane, and there's one point when I didn't know which country I was in. So it takes a lot of time to do that, but once you kind of start building those relationships and building the team and building that confidence with them, then we sort of start rolling back a little bit, and there's a tremendous amount of everyday conversations. So pretty much I do have a slightly large group of people, but we talk every single day, every location. We have morning check-ins, afternoon check-ins, weekend check-ins, and as much as possible trying to go to each location physically at least once a month, if not at least once every 2 months. So it goes back to the original point of having a team that you can rely on, and then giving them the autonomy to work and operate and not to need you constantly to hold their hand. So, and it's constantly evolving. Sometimes we have issues where you need to go to a certain location, so I go there, and sometimes you can back off from certain locations. So it's constantly evolving. I mean, at the end of the day, it's dealing with people. So where someone's hurting, my goal is to kind of go there and then shepherd them through that challenge, and then give them the power and tools to make sure that they feel that they can kind of do things themselves.
I think my original location, Heirloom Kitchen, it was originally a cooking school and a retail boutique. It was never meant to be a restaurant, and in year 3, I pivoted and changed the space to save my business. I wasn't paying myself 3 years into the business, and we turned into a weekend supper club, and that's kind of where my career as a restaurateur ended up taking off. But I remember there was a point where I was in and out of the building, and I remember just overhearing someone say to somebody else in the front of house, "Well, this is how Neely wants it. This is how Neely would do it." And I think it was that in itself where if you show people what you want, what you need, innately they just start to understand that and respect it. For me, that was a really fun moment that people were listening and understood, and I struggled so long in that space because I really didn't have a lot of experience in restaurants, and it wasn't what I was planning on doing. So I didn't have a strong voice, and it took me a long time to find it. Our systems are weekly meetings at all of our locations with our front and back of house, and I think in those moments it's really about listening to everybody's ideas and having an open mind for me, because it's easy to just instantly shut down an idea, and I think most of the time I'm pleasantly surprised about letting the team feel like they're a part of the decision making, coming up with ideas and letting them run with them. And so I think that's a great system for us to make people feel like they're a part of what we're doing, create new ideas, execute them. And I just think it's important that when they come to us, they have like a clear path, like this is what we want to do, this is how we're going to get there and what that looks like. And I think that's kind of, if you don't have that, I don't really want to hear about the idea. And so that's kind of a piece of that, and yeah, that's kind of about it.
It's really hard, I'm not gonna lie, and all of our restaurants are actually in New York City, so I don't even have to go to India, and it's still really hard to even know what's going on at all the locations. But I try to kind of create a really strong relationship with all my managers, and hopefully through that time that we spend together discussing, sharing our ideas, they really kind of share my belief for kind of what we want for the team within the culture, and then the rest is just trusting them and giving them the time and space to not have me like hovered over them, but I trust them to make the right calls especially if their employees are not, misbehaving, or if there's a problem, then they feel empowered to make the right decision in those moments. And I really try to spend a lot of time at the restaurant. So I take a lot of city bikes around the city, going from one restaurant to the other. I try to sit down for family meals with the different restaurants as much as I can. When I joined the company in 2021, we just had 2 restaurants, so Attaboy and Atomix, and now we have like 4 or 5 restaurants. And so there was a point where we had, when we crossed that 100 employee threshold, I think now we're at 130, 135. I was like, oh, I don't know everyone's names anymore. And that was the big moment where I realized, we're getting big. And so I try to kind of know everyone's names still, all the porters, all the hosts, all the different restaurants. And it's not easy, but yeah, the more time I spend with them, I think I know what's going on.
From a simple standpoint, the easiest way that we all communicate, to answer the question, is Slack. Once that was implemented, it really was a huge communication tool across. We have 2 commissaries, so it's not just 2 cafes, it's 2 commissaries, an event space, 2 cafes. And so there's a lot of moving parts, and then all of the catering that goes everywhere in New York City. So that's a huge communication tool. And then how do you do it? I can't be everywhere at once. On the days that I am here, I try to bike around and check in with everybody, but it's having a huge amount of trust in my management team, and then the managers, delegating to them, and then them taking care of their team, and then me having a strong relationship with all of the employees as possible, the same kind of experience of I have a very specific style, I have a way that I want to see things, and just trying to make sure that my managers are learning that, and then they can disseminate that to the teams. It's definitely a work in progress. Something that we're just now implementing that I think is really important is bringing kind of leadership teams together from the 2 different cafes that talk on Slack all the time but hadn't really been together IRL. So they're starting to do outings, going to, taste tea together, coffee, whatever it is, instead of it just being autonomously with that particular cafe, bringing the leadership teams together. So I think that's been hugely special. Another really eye-opening moment was when we brought a lead cook who worked in just 1 cafe around both commissaries and to see the other cafe, and he was like, mine was blown, even though it seemed so obvious to us. Well, who do you think you're talking to on Slack? Of course you're talking to another team that's producing all of that food that you're receiving. It was really eye-opening for them to actually physically go. So now we're trying to implement upon, especially for the leadership positions, back of house and front of house, making sure you're going around and seeing the full operation of what is encompassed under the brand, because they're not individual restaurants all within their own name or identity. It's all under one brand name for us. So that's working on it.
Thank you. I want a few different angles I want to go, but I think I want to stay on this. It seems like you all, lean on your team really heavily, which is incredible, and you put this amazing team in place. How are you continuing to build leaders within your team so that you can trust them and you can sort of not always be present or physically present? How are you doing that? And if you've already mentioned it, that's okay. If anyone wants to elaborate.
I think again, because I come from this traumatized corporate America culture, one thing that I made very, very crucial for myself and for our teams, we really don't take things too seriously. So it doesn't bother me that I don't know anybody's names, or everybody's names, I should say. I know most of the team's names. But I think you can't get into this mindset of, I'm not able to do this, or not do that, or not do this, or, I can't be here or there, or, all of that really allows them to sort of feel like, okay, we can take risks, we can take chances, we can make decisions, and it's okay if we screw something up because we'll just do it better the next time. So that culture is very important to me, and The people who have stayed with me a long time, we've been around for about 15 years now. We have some of my team members have been with me since day one. So those are the crucial guys who kind of help me go off and gallivant in India. Everybody thinks I'm just eating street food in India. I'm not. I'm like the guy peeling potatoes in the kitchen, but or gal. So I think having that is really, really important. Building this culture of it's okay, and that allows my guys to kind of keep moving forward and growing and taking on more responsibility and building their own leadership style. And you're also learning from them constantly. This was kind of interesting for me because it's like, what is your leadership style? And I was like, I don't have one. Which kind of is its own style, right? So I was really thinking about this, but I think that is key to the band of bandits that we've put together.
I would say that just constant feedback to the team and to my managers and words of affirmation and telling them when you see something that you enjoy, I think goes a really long way. I remember last week I went in and my front of house manager, who's new in the role, I mean, he started as a back server, he was a lead captain at one of our restaurants, he's now one of the best managers I know. He was an art teacher, he was never in hospitality. He's so fantastic, and he was interviewing a few people that came in, a captain, a back server, and I was just so invigorated by his energy and his ability to connect with people and talk about what we do and how we do it, and he's drinking the Kool-Aid big time, and to see that kind of happen in that interview, when the interviews were over, I was like, Mike, that was fucking amazing. I love watching you give those interviews, you literally made my day. And then he was so jazzed up just by that quick little feedback, but truly, it filled my cup, and it was an exciting moment to see him grow as much as he has. So I think, feedback all the time, be generous with it. I'm normally the person who looks for all the things that I don't like. I blame my dad for that. And so,
It's a whole other panel discussion. See me later.
I love that, being generous with your time, because time is so limited and I have a lot of things on my plate, but I do think the more time I spend with my managers, the more I'm there to support them in their growth, and I want to know about what's going on in their lives. And again, it's sometimes I just feel like I don't have time for all of this, and it's, but you see someone struggling and you talk to them and they're like, well, I just broke up with my boyfriend and I got kicked out of my apartment and I need to go find an apartment. It's like, okay, of course they're struggling at work, right? And so to see kind of beyond their performance and their work and really recognizing them as people and seeing what's going on is really helpful. I do weekly or bi-weekly one-on-ones with all my managers. And again, a lot of the times in the best days, it's 5 minutes. It's like, how you doing? Really good. What are you working on? This. Cool. See you next week. And then once in a while, it's like, how are you doing? And they're like, oh, not so great. And I think those are the kind of valuable sessions that we have where we can see how we can support them. And they love that idea of not taking yourself too seriously. It's okay that things don't go wrong, right? Or don't go well. It's like, we're here. That's why I always want my managers to know that I'm giving them a lot of balls and I want them to learn how to keep them in the air, but I will never let them kind of drop the ball. We'll always be here to pick up the balls that they lose. So I think your management style actually is you make people feel safe. And that's a really, really important thing that you can do for your leaders, because otherwise they're too scared to take risks or try something new. So
I tell my crew all the time, we're not doing brain surgery.
yeah.
That's when you should be really serious.
It's food.
It's just food. You burn something, we'll make it again. We'll comp the customer. It's not a big deal.
I use that one a lot too. It's not brain surgery. I think very early on, one of the things that happened when we were a much smaller catering company and I was leading and I was definitely doing the job itself, was the next in line person said, if you don't step away from the table, they will never put their trust in me. And that was that, and I never looked back from there. That person became the director of sales, and once I realized I could step away, I also became a mom right around that time. It kind of forced that. So in running a cafe where weekends are the busiest days of the week, I have a hard line. It's my days for being a parent. I trust implicitly in my team. I get to pop by, I go and check on everybody, I taste things constantly, but I'm not standing there, you know, leaning over them. So I think that one snippet of a story is kind of it's a thread that you see through all of the years of me running the business. You look for people who want to grow. We lead with empathy, with communication. It's definitely a work in progress, but we have raised people kind of within the company more than anything at all. And I love hearing from baristas who, you know, work with us for 2 years and they get to learn so much about the company, then it grows them into a leadership position, then a manager, et cetera. So I think we're just now on that trajectory of really watching leaders grow within the company, and it's been really exciting.
I have a few more questions, and then we'll open it up to everyone in the audience. So, thank you. My next question, I think, Saori, you kind of touched on this, but, and I'm sure this is a sentiment that I know I feel, I'm sure other women in the room feel. How have you found that balance of being sort of that leading with strength, but also that empathy that you talked about? And are there moments where, you know, you're worried about not being liked, or how have you gotten past that? And maybe, Saori, if you want to kick us off, and then if everyone else wants to chime in as well.
When I was at, I'm not gonna say which restaurant, we had a chef who was psychotic. And I love him, he's such a good guy, but he is a product of everything he's learned in Europe and Korea. And so my initial relationship with him was like meeting, like, hey, you can't say that to people in the kitchen in America. And he's like, oh, you want me to come in and give everyone high fives? And so like sweet and cuddly. And it's like, well, no, that's not what I'm saying. And then one time, early on, I had a server who was underperforming, and I had to pull her aside and have a download with her at the end of the night. And he was like, hearing what I was saying from afar. He's like, you're savage. I was like, yeah, it's not that I don't tell them exactly what's going on. I just say it and never cross that boundary of like respect and taking away their dignity. But I do think I owe it to people to be really honest and, again, to see them as a person, right? And I think I always want to treat them like adults, even when they're not actually maybe meeting that expectation. And I think people always surprise me by reciprocating. And so I give people the benefit of the doubt, and so someone who's not showing up with their full self might be like, hey, what's going on? I feel like this isn't your best. I feel like you can do so much more. And I want them to be a part of the solution, right? You know, a lot of them are like questions, like, hey, you tell me what's going on, or I feel like you're making this mistake multiple times. We've talked about it before. How do you think you can overcome this? So letting them be a part of the solution always kind of gives them the agency. And even though we're kind of discussing and hyper-focusing on their mistakes, it's still, in a way, empowering for them to feel like, okay, well, I'm part of the solution.
Leading with empathy. I've always led with empathy. I've never been a yeller. I think anybody who works in my company will know if I'm extremely disappointed, straight up. I'm a very straight shooter. Doesn't mean I'm not stern, but it doesn't escalate in a hyper-masculine way. I think that at the end of the day, things have changed so much in a growing business, especially after the years of the pandemic. The amount of different type of employees we have and the needs has become really, I mean, I was saying this before, that to have a hospitality group be able to employ somebody to take care of people is hugely important. We're a little bit too small for that, but we've invested now in HR and having somebody who can physically come. I think it's really important that everybody knows that there's somebody approachable that they can come talk to that's not necessarily the owner of the company or even their manager specifically. I was also giving examples of leading with empathy, where one of the pillars of our business is, work-life balance and being a sustainable company for a woman who might want to become a mother. It's hugely difficult because I had to stand up for, another mom like myself that goes against hurdles constantly about not being able to come into work, brain fogginess, really tired, not performing at their best. And standing up for that person, because I also couldn't believe that they even were showing up in the way that they were as a chef every single day. So I think I'm finding my way, but leading with empathy is hugely successful.
You guys are way too nice. I had my longest employee who's now 30. He started with me when he was 15. And he had been with me for a few months when his mom asked him, you work here, what do you think about this job or this woman or whatever? And he's like, she's the nicest dragon lady you will meet. So I'm very much a dragon lady at work, but I think you're right. It's almost, you have, as an employer, you have this, you're kind of split 50-50 between your external customers and what I like to call my internal customers, our crew and our staff and our team. Every single person on that team, it doesn't matter, how many hours you work or what job you do, it's all part of a huge machinery that makes it all work, so not one person is any more or less important than the other. So we try to make sure that we put things in place in the company, whether it's having long-term planning with 401k plans, medicals, all those kind of things, time off, and housing has been a huge crisis, at least where I'm from in upstate. Ensuring that people have proper housing and education, and mentoring them through schools and colleges. So we do a lot of that other stuff, that nice stuff. But at work, they then also understand that the dragon lady I'm at work is not necessarily the same fire-breathing animal outside of work.
I was just going to say that I think over time you just have to get comfortable with knowing that you're not going to be the most liked person, and that's your role. And I think over time I did, and I'm okay with it, and that's what my position is. I think giving people second chances is really important. So there's so many moments where someone did do something that disappointed me, and where we've had to have hard conversations, and I think that, believing in people and giving them opportunities to show up better is a big part of that too. And yeah, I just think that there's so much real-time feedback in a restaurant, right, from the guests, I have a management deal at one of our places, so there's 4 owners, it's a lot. There's too many cooks in the kitchen on so many levels, and so they're serial diners. They're coming in all the time, consuming alcohol, having their moments, and then real-time feedback all the time. And so you have to constantly listen to that feedback, and I know in my heart of hearts when someone tells me something, whether there's validity to it or not, and that's using my gut, my intuition, and then knowing if I need to escalate that to my staff and really have the conversation or the hard conversation. Point being is I'm always the person who's delivering the news, right? I'm used to it, and I'm good with it.
That's a really good point. We don't, at work, we don't have a fired or a quit list. We have a breakup list. So, you can work with us 6 months, 8 months, and then we have disagreement or there's something happening that's not working out. We kind of just take a break from each other. So, and then that person can choose to come back, or we can say, okay, we are going to communicate differently now. So maybe this is a relationship that can work out. So it's something that's constantly evolving and changing. It's something that didn't work for us this year could be very different at a different location or another year, so it's just being open to that.
I was only gonna say, if I sounded too soft or empathetic. There's a lot of also hard no's with, as you said, I'm used to, it's not being the bad guy, I like to be like, this is straight up not going to happen. These are the numbers. This is what it looks like. That raise is not going to happen. That promotion's not going to happen. You're not buying that. You're not changing that. Whatever it is, I can say it in that type of voice, not a yell. It's stern, it's being open, it's teaching constantly. There's constantly this assumption of success, of money pouring in, of all of this stuff, and teaching your employees down the line, that's not what's happening here, So having to put your foot down in a lot of those situations is not something I have a problem with at all. And then just being as transparent as possible about the whys is really important to me.
Okay, I have one final question, and then we'll open it up all to you. What piece of advice would you give to someone that might be struggling with confidence as a leader, or not to bring up, imposter syndrome? I'm sure we've all felt it, even, in your positions now. But yeah, what would be your sort of advice for someone in that position? I can pass it to whoever would like to start. It's a big one, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I think to know yourself. Know yourself, know what is your style of just being, and then try to create something that feels authentic and natural to you. So, I think that's critical, extremely important in all of it, not just in your leadership style, but what kind of business you're going to have. And I'm assuming a lot of you are probably in the food or restaurant business in some capacity. So it's, why are you doing this, and does it feel natural to you? Everything that we do in my restaurant is, I'm not going to say opposite to what normal average restaurants run, or what we think of restaurants run. The way we structure our teams, the way we cook, the way we train, everything is extremely different, and we struggle somewhat with that, because when someone comes off of working from another restaurant, they struggle with our culture, and that can be very hard for us at times. But it's very authentic to who I am and what works in my head, and the process, the way I see it. So then there's sustainability in that, if that makes sense, right? So it's, if you feel strongly about what you are doing and how you want to do it, it's going to be easy for you to translate that. And leadership is not something, or management is not something that one morning you wake up and you're like, I'm a leader. I wish it was like that. We just had a corporate meeting the other day, and everyone, we were having a discussion, and everyone was looking at me to make a final choice, and I was like, wait, I'm that guy. I didn't quite realize I was making the final decision. So it's, even after all this time, and after having all, the number of people that are constantly involved in my team, it's still something that I have to work on an everyday basis. And we talked about this earlier, how that's constantly evolving and changing also, based on whatever's happening in the outside environment. You have to know that you constantly have to be changing and evolving with what's happening, and whether it's government, whether it's the pandemic, whether it's the big American force quit out. What was that thing that happened during
quit.
Quiet quitting. It wasn't quiet quitting. I mean, everybody just stopped working. Trying to find new employees, all of that stuff. So it's evolving. So I think take that pressure off of you, and in thinking that I have to have a style and I'm going to model it, around this way of leadership or management, because you can and you have that ability to actually create something that works for you, that then you can translate, down the line.
I think the why is so important, and that was something that came up when I was in Well. One of my favorite classes was Becoming a Powerful Leader, and it was so insightful. But I think the why and like what your North Star is so important. Why are we doing this every day? Why are you putting yourself through all this pain and torture every day of your life, running multiple businesses? I was going to say that I had imposter syndrome too, and I think that my advice is to stop and smell the roses and to remind yourself, I did this, I created this, this is why we're all here. So that's my advice, is to remind yourselves that you are a part of something that you created, and I think it's a friendly reminder to give yourself the confidence to be a good leader.
I love that phrase, like fake it till you make it. And I think, in a way, everyone's faking it. I've been with some of the greatest chefs, some of the best restaurateurs around the world, and everyone's just trying their best and making it up each day. And that's not to say like pretend like you're somebody else, but to kind of cultivate behaviors in yourself that you wanna see. And I love like looking at other leaders, and like in fine dining especially, we do this a lot. And so I'll like record my staff standing or walking or talking or spieling, and they're always like, oh, why do I do that with my hands? Or like, what do I do with my face? And so we'll and then I'll say like, okay, we'll go find somebody out there that you love to emulate and study them. And mine is always Michelle Obama. But really like how she sits, how she sees people, how she communicates, like all of that you can break down and really try to like practice until that becomes your second nature. I love that idea of like stop and smell the roses. I think that why is also important, and just it's good to have that self-doubt. I think the worst leaders think they're the best and nobody knows better than them, and only they have the answers. And so actually never lose that humility as you grow and cultivate your leadership.
I think that certain people are born entrepreneurs or leaders. Like I was a kid who, that was always in me. I think the imposter syndrome is real though within the restaurant industry. For instance, I'm not the chef of my company, and I don't know how to do a lot of the things that my managers know how to do. And so there was a certain amount of time where I wondered if the success of the company was because of somebody else or because of something I brought to the table. And then when the company completely almost shuttered in the pandemic and I rebuilt it as something completely different than what it was before, it really kind of secured that confidence that the brand is me, I am my brand, and there was no looking back from there. That the employees I have are hugely important and I need them, but that what I've created is something that I've built.